Hello everybody, I'm Buzz Fisherman.
And I'm Marley Leaf.
And welcome to Fake News. Since we are approaching the end of this decade, we're going to be dedicating this day to a very special segment of our new show called Flash to the Past Decade Review.
So to start this off, we're going to be talking about culture. We're going to be doing major events, popular forms of entertainment, and we're also going to be talking about sports and famous celebrities that brought something to the 70s.
And now on to major political events. Now, the U.S. this decade actually reached its 200th year anniversary from its founding.
That's right, we're 200 years old as a nation.
Except we are only 30. Right? Right? I'm done. Bye.
Since we're on the topic of sports, what about O.J. Simpson? I heard that he's an amazing running back. He's scored an insane amount of touchdowns with 2,003 total yards this season.
Insane, yeah. He just needed like 61 more yards in his final game, and he gained them easily and ended up winning. It was such an amazing game. That guy is like, his TV performance and his sports performance is so good. He's such a classy and very nice guy to meet and talk with. I've actually met him once.
You have?
Yeah, because I got a signature from him because I interviewed him in one of the interviews. I think it was 1973. In which we talked about how he ended up winning one of his matches. It was such a great game.
I bet. Well, moving on, aside from culture, we've had 3 presidents this decade. What do you think about that?
I think overall they've been pretty good. Some of them have had really bad scandals, and also, but they've also applied many good policies as well.
And now to Mariana, who's going to be giving the political analysis of the presidents in the 70s.
Good morning. This is Fake News in Washington, D.C., Friday, August 9, and the nation awaits the swearing in at noon Eastern Time of our 38th President, Gerald Ford, and the departure of political life, Richard Nixon. In a televised farewell last night, President Nixon acknowledged that it was the Watergate scandal of 1972 that weakened his base in Congress to continue with any effectiveness. His resignation as the 37th President of the United States takes effect at noon today, Eastern Time, and at that moment in the Oval Office, Vice President Gerald Ford will be sworn in as the 38th Chief Executive. Although many of us are still devastated and may find it hard to believe, there is here in Washington a great sense of belief and hope that the turmoil of the last 2 years is over at last. Here's a part of what the President said in his resignation speech last night.
I have never been a quitter. To leave office before my term is completed is abhorrent to every instinct in my body. But as president, I must put the interests of America first. America needs a full-time president and a full-time Congress, particularly at this time with problems we face at home and abroad. To continue to fight through the months ahead for my personal vindication would almost totally absorb the time and attention of both the President and the Congress in a period when our entire focus should be on the great issues of peace abroad and prosperity without inflation at home. Therefore, I shall resign the presidency effective at noon tomorrow. Vice President Ford will be sworn in as president at that hour in this office.
In 1974, President Gerald Ford, following the resignation of President Nixon after leaving the White House in disgrace over the Watergate scandal and having become the first unelected president in the nation's history, had pulled American troops out of the war in Vietnam and had inclusively ended the war in Vietnam. This outstanding action, for which President Gerald Ford is remembered for contributes to the restoring of public confidence in government after the disillusionment of the Watergate era. It is 1977 and we have reached the last president of our century, Jimmy Carter, the 39th president of the United States. Recognized by being the president to have won the Nobel Peace Prize of 2002, he served as the nation's chief executive during a time of serious problems at home and abroad. Despite his accomplishments, the mishandling of certain issues was the cost to his bid for re-election and the reason to why he only served one term. In addition to that, he continued to struggle with the stagflation, in which he wanted to help create more jobs and asked Americans to make personal sacrifices for the common purpose, which Americans did not respond well to. Thank you, and now back to the studio.
We're going to take a quick commercial break. We'll see you right back after that.
Hello. Don't you just feel a bit lonely sometimes? Like there's no one in the world that can make you happy again? Don't you just feel like there's an empty hole in your soul? Well, not anymore. Introducing the Pet Rock. It's the latest innovation of technology and psychology. You don't need to feed it. You don't need to walk it. You don't have to do anything to it. It's just there to make you less lonely. Now, isn't that great? A pet is perfectly programmed to do absolutely nothing. And with just a small fee of $3.95, you'll get a free charging and station with built-in outlets. You can charge your charger while charging your Pet Rock. Now that's technology at its finest.
What?
Guys, get back to work. Come on.
All right. I'm Marley Leaf,
And I'm Buzz Fisherman.
and we're Fake News.
Okay, now we're going to start talking about more of the economics part of our show, in which we dive more into the inventions of the 1970s, including the companies that arose, and also a couple economic policies that really helped shape the 1970s and the U.S. government as a whole. Now to start off with the inventions. So in the 1970s, it's been a great year for us in appliances and mini tech. So to first start off, there's a new invention called the mobile phone. It's insane. The mobile phone. It's where you can carry a phone and you can call anyone you want. It's kind of like a curved shape. It's like a banana kind of. But then you can hold it and then you can like dial the number and you don't have to you don't have to like do the rolling thing.
Are you serious?
Yeah, you can just walk around with it around the house. Yeah, it's been really a cool invention. It's gonna skyrocket in market. I can just see it coming.
I bet, man.
I can just imagine iPhone 100. Okay, now moving on. I know there's a whole new set of like technology companies rising up in fame. Yeah, it's insane.
So, for example, Microsoft has risen. Apple has risen. These two companies have blown up in recent years. Aside from those corporations, there's also been the cinema screen color TV invention. I can't believe how many people bought that the first day it came out.
Also, like the Altair computer. It was this thing that started rising up into fame and it's like became widely available. It's like a personal computer in which you can bring home. You can work, you can do whatever you want on it. It's like very fast, way faster than before. It's insane.
You mean the room-long computers that we had? That's how it was in the 70s.
We are in the 70s. Do not be mistaken, audience. I don't know what this guy is talking about. Okay. Ignore the whole part, where he forgot which timeline we are in which you do not mock the 70s computer, which was the best invention at the time, definitely. They're sponsoring our show. Yeah, aside from all these new inventions and corporations starting to rise up into fame and grow and make a lot of money, there's also been new economic policies being implemented by the federal government recently.
Oh yes, one of them is the Revenue Act of 1978, where individual income taxes have been decreased, and tax exemption has increased from $750 to $1,000.
Wow.
That and state and local taxes have repeated a deduction for gasoline and oil, so not only can we save at home, but we can save abroad while traveling.
Yeah, also, I've heard that these economic policies, overall from what you've said, really benefit a lot of Americans. It lets them save up more for retirement and for many different things, including luxuries and just living life in general instead of working for all these hours that they've been doing for the past couple decades and centuries.
That, and it has helped with a great inflation, because the stock market, let's be real, it's a mess. It loses 40% in an 18-month period at the end of this decade, and economic growth has not contributed to people in general. We've just declined, and hopefully now these revenue acts, or the Revenue Act, will help us regain some of the money that we have lost.
Moving on from economics, we're going to start talking about more of the cultural things and the individuals who's played more key roles in the social, artistic, and athletic, not much athletic, more in the artistic and social moods and the themes of the 1970s.
Okay.
So then to start off, in the Munich Olympic Games, something very depressing happened. 11 Israeli athletes were killed, and by five terrorists, and one policeman was also killed. These 5 terrorists were labeled as Palestinian terrorists for the Palestinian militants affiliated with Black September. Black September, if you guys don't remember, is September 5th, 1972, when this tragic event took place. It was a militant offshoot of the Palestinian group Fatah scaled a fence and then started shooting in the Olympic Village in Munich. And they gunned down 11 Israelis. It's very sad.
It's a tragedy.
Yeah. And then also, this decade hasn't been really too good for major celebrities, including Elvis Presley, who was found dead on his toilet by an overdose of drugs. He's left such a great impact by encouraging many people to relive music, listen more to music, and he's been a great spokesman for the culture, and also all the new of his type of music started rising into fame. And also the Bee Gees, they also dominated, but in good news this time. Bee Gees, they grew in massive fame, and they started rising through the charts, dominating, and they started hitting songs in...
Have you heard Staying Alive? Staying Alive.
No.
You haven't?
No. And now on to culture with Oswaldo.
Thanks, guys. So today I'm gonna talk about social and culture. So the 1970s were a very interesting decade. From minority groups like women, Native Americans, Chicanos, Puerto Ricans, Black Panthers, Grey Panthers, and the openly gay Pink Panthers fighting for their rights, to people just starting to worry about themselves in the so-called May decade. Now, this led to the apparition of the mechanical music, also called disco. So the popularity of disco was so big that people just went on parties and they just took drugs and they just forget about their problems. Now, surprisingly, with the popularity of disco, there was also a big amount of rock bands that appeared during these years. Rock bands like Aerosmith, Queen, AC/DC, Eagles, ABBA, and Kiss. That's all for me, so now back to the studio.
We're going to take another commercial break. We will see you right after this.
Okay, let's talk prices. The milk was about $1 per gallon. The bread was about 25 cents per loaf. The meat was about 99 cents per pound. The turkey was about 58 cents per pound. The fruits, apples, were about 59 cents for 4 pounds. The banana was about 12 cents per pound. The strawberries were about 29 cents per pound. And the oranges were about 7 cents per pound. The eggs cost 59 or 25 cents per dozen. And the gallon of gas cost 36 cents, although it doubled after the gas crisis.
What?
Guys, get back!
LGBT movement. Lesbian, gay, bisexual, and transgender LGBT movements, social movements, is a political ideology and social movement that advocate for the full acceptance of LGBT people in society. Although there is not a primary or an overreaching central organization that represents all LGBT people and their interests, numerous LGBT rights, organizations are active worldwide. Some have also focused on building LGBT communities or work towards liberation for the broader society from biphobia, homophobia, and transphobia. LGBT movements organized today are made up of a worldwide range of political activism and cultural activity, including lobbying, street marches, social groups, media, art, and research. Political goals include changing laws and policies in order to gain new rights, benefits, and protection from harm.
Thank you, Isaac. Okay, now moving on. Now we're going to start talking about more of the economic policies and the inventions that sprung up during the 1970s. This includes stuff like the new invention of the new mobile phone, the Apple company, and also the Microsoft company. These are really new inventions that sparked better and more improved computers, phones, and technology in general, and hopefully this will renovate the decades to come.
And now into the specifics of these companies. For example, Apple arose and was founded by Steve Jobs and Stefan Wozniak and became a great and huge company in the 70s. Microsoft also sprung up, created by Bill Gates and Paul Allen, and now they have become the first widely available personal computer that's been running through. They created this personal computer that's been running through Microsoft's basic software, and that's starting to spread to more and more countries throughout the world.
With the springing and new rise of more companies and technological advancements, there's also been more economic policies and legislation being passed. This includes the Revenue Act of 1978. This act helped a majority of the people with their taxes, helped them save more money and able to spend it and reinvest more into the stock market and buy more luxuries and food. This also includes stuff like the individual income tax decreased, and also tax exemption increased from $750 to $1,000.
I also heard that corporate tax rates were decreased by 2%.
Yeah, that's right. Also, the standard deduction increased from $3,200 to $3,400 for joint filters.
And capital gains increased from 50 to 60%. And also, state and local taxes repealed the deduction for gasoline and oil, making you save. Oh, that's the only thing that I went against. Sorry. It was the only part of this Revenue Act that you could not save on. That was the only portion of it. Gas and oil. Remember that. And now more on to the political analysis. Stefan's got that. We'll see you then.
Thanks, guys. Many things happened during this magnificent decade, including major legislation. This is a century of environmental protection, which will hopefully leave a huge positive impact on the world in the upcoming decade. An act called the National Environmental Policy Act was established to regulate environmental activities and protect the environment for future generations. Other acts that can protect the nature include Marine Mammal Protection Act, Marine Protection Research and Sanctuaries Act, Coastal Zone Management Act, Endangered Species Act, and Fishery Conservation and Management Act. In other news, in the legal battle of Roe v. Wade, abortion was legalized nationwide. That's all for me. Back to the studio.
Thanks, Stefan. And now this is the Envirus segment. Until next time, I'm Buzz Fisherman.
And I'm Marley Leaf.
And thanks for watching.